Hi, everyone. Welcome. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's really a pleasure to be here today. We look forward to having a really great discussion, sharing our experience and our expertise with you on the works we're doing in humanitarian action. My name is Foni Joyce Vuni, a South Sudanese refugee living in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm also the coordinator for the Global Refugee Youth Network. And I'll be your moderator today for this session on engaging young people in humanitarian action. This is one of many sessions that we're having after the official launch of the Interagency Standing Committee Guidelines, which is the Iasc guidelines on working with and for youth. And many of you might have heard about this guideline. If you've not heard about it, it's still fine. Later on during the call, Priya will be able to share more information about the guidelines, and this will come probably at the end. The guidelines, from my engagement and from my perspective, and what I have also interacted with and read, is that the guidelines have highlighted how to work with and for youth in a practical manner. And we will get to hear practical examples of how young people are also using these guidelines as well in the different work they're doing. During this session, we will have time to respond to your questions, and we encourage you to use the question and answer as the session is ongoing to ask any questions you'd have, or even share the different reflections that you will have as the panelists are sharing their experience. I hope you're excited as I am to learn from our incredible panelists. We have with us voices of young advocates from different perspectives, and our panel will be sharing on their experience from the conflict setting, as well from the natural disasters and what they've been doing in the community. And at this point, I would like to invite our panelists to turn on your camera so that we can get to see who we have on the panel today. Great, thank you so much. On our panel, we have really incredible young people, and I'm happy to see you all, first of all. Welcome to this session, joining from different time zones. And I'm really happy to get us started. And to get us started, I would like to invite Shahid. Shahid, can you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, your lived experience, and also what is your inspiration? As we've said, this panel is from bringing different perspectives. Shahid, I would be keen to hear who are you and what is your inspiration and what is your lived experience? Shahid, welcome.
Thank you so much, Foni. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Regarding where you are in the world, I'm very glad to be part of this wonderful and unique discussion today. My name is Shahid Zaland, an Afghan refugee currently living in the United States of America. And I am one of the 20 young people Youth Compact champions. I started my humanitarian and social change work back in 2015 from a food, cloth, and cash aid collection for internally displaced people back in my community to establishing my own level, my own local level nonprofit organization for achieving gender equality and protecting women and girls' rights, maintaining social peace and harmony among community members, and empowering young people with employability and IT skills with a greater focus on humanitarian settings and humanitarian crisis-affected communities. Due to the recent political challenges and collapse of the Afghan Republic government, I myself left the country and became a refugee in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shahid, for sharing your perspective. It's a pleasure to have you on our panel. I'm going to turn then to Sarah. Could you also introduce yourself and respond to the same questions that Shahid has just responded to?
Thank you, Foni. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you all. I'm so proud to be with you today. I am Sarah Sheikh Omar. I am a Syrian refugee in Jordan. Although I am a refugee girl in the Middle East, it doesn't stop me and it doesn't frustrate me to achieve my dream of being an influential and successful person. Now I am working as a researcher with the university and global organization. I am aspiring to complete my graduated course in master and doctorate so that I can teach all young people that it's not impossible to dream and work. Thank again, Pony.
Thank you very much, Sarah, as well. A pleasure to have you two on our panel. And then I'm going to turn to Arwin. Could you also introduce yourself and share with us what are your inspiration and your lived experience as well?
Okay, thank you, Pony. Hello, everyone. Good night from Indonesia. My name is Erwin, and I'm a part of Mitra Muda, UNICEF Indonesia Youth Network. Now I'm currently studying in Bandung Polytechnic of Social Welfare, and my major is social work. And I also interested in strengthening community capacity, especially both disaster management, mental health and psychosocial support, and also child protection. And my motivation to be humanitarian worker is to build more resilience of the community. As a youth humanitarian worker, I have a lot of opportunities to implementing mental health and psychosocial support program and give more opportunity to engage young people in emergency situation. And I wish to continue in the future as a UNICEF emergency program specialist when I grow up. Thank you, Fanny.
Thank you very much. I'm so happy that we have quite a very diverse panel, and we've all heard that Sarah shared she's a young girl with a dream. We've heard from Shahid sharing that he is committed to making sure that women and young people are engaged. And we've heard from Irene as well. He's looking forward to in the future becoming an emergency program specialist at UNICEF. And I think that also speaks quite a lot of volume. Thank you all. It's really a pleasure to have you on this panel today. About 8 years ago, when I started my work in advocacy on refugee youth issues, my parents had quite a lot of influence on the choice because they were both involved in the community, and I watched them work to help others in the community. And I really slowly started exploring this, what can I do as a young person as well? And based on my experiences and the challenges that I faced in the community, I felt like I really wanted to give back to my community despite the challenges. There were many challenges I encountered, but before hearing from some of the challenges that I encountered, I'd like to invite Shahid and bring him onto this particular conversation. As a young person working in humanitarian action, what challenges have you experienced or observed amongst the young people? Shahid, welcome.
Well, based on my own observation and direct experience from working in humanitarian crisis, especially with young people, the most critical challenges for young people that I have noticed are lack of employability and vocational skills and knowledge. Many young people that are affected by crisis do not have on-demand job skills and employability skills that makes them most vulnerable to a financial crisis. The second critical challenge that I have noticed is violence against young girls and women, including underage girls, is another one of the most devastating challenge in crisis-affected communities. So violence against girls and women is one of the most devastating challenge in Afghanistan. Especially in those internally displaced people communities that I found, and problems such as domestic violence against women and girls, and child marriage, forced marriage, selling girls and women against money, because most people are facing like financial problems and troubles when it comes to a humanitarian crisis. So they just like they don't have any other option instead of just like selling and their daughters and the women and like against enough money in order to survive and just like to bring some food for their family. And also human trafficking, exploitation, and forcing them to some other illegal actions, including prostitutions, are the most critical challenges for women in such situations and in such communities. Next, the most important challenge that that is interconnected to all of the challenges in humanitarian situation for young people in children is lack of access to quality education. Access to quality and modern education has been a top challenge for many children and young people in Afghanistan. And when it comes to crisis and humanitarian situation, education and schooling become really critical challenge there for more people. And more children and young people are forced out of the school, and that's where all other problems for them arise, including unemployment, child labor, violence against them, human trafficking, and other kinds of exploitation, because they do not have education and they are not like fully aware. So that's like more vulnerable to all other problems and challenges. The last, but not at not at least problem and challenge that I have encountered and I have observed in crisis-affected communities in Afghanistan is the lack of mental health awareness programs and resources, which makes many young people vulnerable and passive, because they do not know like how to control their emotions, and they do not know how to control like their mental health. So I found that in almost any crisis affected setting, young people suffer a lot from mental health problems, and there has not been resources, help, and support for them where they can go and they can get healed, where they can get like treatment, and where they can get awareness. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shahid, for also highlighting realities on the ground. And at this point, I'd like to bring in Sarah as well to hear from your perspective. What are some of the issues faced by young people in the Middle East region, particularly when it comes to education and work? And why do you think it's important to work with Syrian youth and other nationalities? Sarah, welcome.
Hi again, Foni. Thank you for this important question. Young people are the basic energy of society, so it is very important to talk about their challenges. Okay, based on my experience in a social science and social work researcher, I would like to highlight four main issues that youth suffer from in the Middle East especially, and that affect their effectiveness. First, lack of the opportunity for community and civic participation. This is due to the limited opportunities for young people to participate in society. They need to opportunity to participate, increase their impact on society and their self-confidence. Third and second issue, economic difficulties and limited education, which are very connected issue. Often vulnerable families, like those as refugee communities, face economic hardships due to difficulty source employment. They can be related to our status as a refugee. For me, as a refugee in Middle East, I have experienced this even though I have a lot of skills and qualification. I have a loss of opportunity just because I am a refugee, unfortunately for this. And I don't have a nationality. For example, about a month ago, I completed an interview and 2 exams in one of the major private company in Jordan. I impressed the managers and with the skills I have. But when I reached the point of seeking the contract, I was rejected only because I am a Syrian. So it was a difficult situation, but I overcome it. There are many young people suffering from this issue in the Middle East. Finally, regard to the issue of, or challenges facing the refugee, increased risk, exploitation, and abuse. I will speak particularly of refugee during conflicts and war. They witness and experience physical and intercultural violence. This has led to disintegration of the social fabric of families and society. This contributes, unfortunately, to the youth living in the Middle East feeling isolated, desperate, and afraid in the future. It's important to me to work with Syrian youth because I am one of them. I can to identify their challenges, dream, ambition clearly. As a young Syrian woman, I want to solve many problems and challenges with education and labor market, equal opportunity and asylum challenges, and government law. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sarah. You've raised a lot of points that I can relate to, and I will come back to that. At this point, I also want to bring Arwin into this particular conversation. Arwin, from the work that you have done, what are the risks that children and youth face in disaster situation in Indonesia in particular? Arwin, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Fanny. Maybe for a while, I would like to explain about the general situation of disaster in Indonesia. Indonesia is a third in the world for the number of people that at risk of natural hazard. In addition, natural hazard causing destruction of the houses, school, places of business, and also raises issue related to safety and welfare of children. In my experience in working in emergency response and DRR, I was able to see a problem such as separation of children from their parents, physical violence, sexual violence, marriage at the children, and also illegal adoption. One of reason I got into work in emergency response and disaster risk reduction because I saw a lot of children who were separated from their parents don't have a figure to take care of them, and also they were so vulnerable to being exploited, and also often got access to tailored program to meet their needs. I have also seen a lot of situations where the shelter isn't safe for both children and young people. For example, when I was deployed in Lebak, Banten, emergency response of flood, I saw the beds in the shelter are mixed between men and women, and also the bedroom are unsafe and less close that can open up opportunity for crime, for example, gender-based violence. In the emergency response that I got deployed, I also see how the stressful post-disaster condition can also make children and young people vulnerable, and they can able to get sexual exploitation or physical exploitation. Through my emergency response experience, I think children and young people often lack access to mental health and psychosocial support, with potentially devastating their long-term effect, such as anxiety, stress, and other related stress problem that also affected they grow up healthy and happy. Violence can take a long life toll on their emotional health, physical health, and social development. For the lesson that I've encountered in Sumedang, who have been separated from their parents, it causes them severe distress and exposure to traumatic event that can about harmful outcomes such as low perform in school, and then self-harm and suicide. I've reflected that failure to address mental health and psychosocial support that can affect child development and hinder the opportunity to participate meaningfully in their community. Thank you, Fanny.
Thank you very much, Arwin. I think all of you have reflected on a lot of challenges that are happening in the community. You've talked about the lack of skills and being employability, being able to be employed because of lack of these skills. You've highlighted that there's limited participation of young people when it comes to the civic community and civic participation. We've talked about mental health, and this is something that has come across. And I'm just thinking about one point. This is one thing that I also had like a big challenge for me as a young humanitarian worker in this space. I remember that as young advocates, we're working in the community, we're aware of the needs of the community, and sometimes these are the similar needs we also face. And during my work back in 2016, I lost my father, and this was due to a lot of human rights violation. And this meant that I couldn't effectively continue with my work because I needed to get to work through this mental health aspect. And one of the things that really helped me was that, first of all, there were some youth-friendly resources that I was able to look into, and they helped me to work on that. And then at the same time, peer support was quite keen during this particular period, and it helped me to really work through it. I'm still working through it, and the peer support is helping me. And we've talked about the challenges, and I'd be keen to hear from all of us. We've talked about the challenges we face in the work that we're doing, and maybe we could start with Shahid. Can you share about how you have mobilized young people in Afghanistan, and what did you do to address the challenges you highlighted, particularly raising awareness and organizing assistance to respond to the challenges and the difficulties for the young women and girls you have mentioned? So if you could also tell us about solutions you came up with, I would be keen to hear, how did you work through this?
Okay, thank you, Foni. To address the challenges, specifically the problems against women and girls in humanitarian crisis and humanitarian settings, throughout a comprehensive plan of action and effective programs for addressing these challenges and problems against women and girls, I, with my other like-minded fellows, approached in two ways for addressing this problem. Like in two stages. We have the two stages for our activism and for programming. Through awareness, like the first stage was awareness, and the second stage was like direct assistance. Through awareness programs, we set up in health outreach programs and informative sessions for community and household influentials, and also women and girls. We spread the awareness about the illegality of violence against women, especially forced marriage and child marriage and selling the girl for money, and committing physical violence against women and girl by the community members, especially among household leaders and other people who are influential in the community and who could help stop this problem. And on the other hand, we also disseminate information and awareness among girls and women directly about their basic human rights in how to advocate for themselves and others when facing such violations and such problems. So majority of the Afghan women and girls population are uneducated, so they do not know about their rights and how to seek for help and assistance when they need. So our target was to make them familiar with governmental and other non-governmental entities and agencies that they could where they could get the support from, and they could provide them like help and protection. So through awareness, we were able to reach out to lots of women and girls and also community members. And through awareness, through assistance program, which was the next stage of our activism and our work, we helped women and girls who were victims of violence through direct assistance with them. We tried to engage with local authorities and local entities to advocate with them to provide complete protection and support for women and girls who were victimized by violence. Many of the women and girls were afraid of exposing their cases to the legal entities, and many did not know how to proceed with their cases and where to go to get support and to get help. So we managed to act in the front line and galvanize justice and support for these types of cases, violence victim women. And just like we, from exposing until protection, we were like beside them. And I can give like just like barely a very good example. Like I noticed that in one of the community, like a family wanted to sell their daughter, but we could provide the girl protection, and we were able to save her.
Thank you, Shahid. I think you've mentioned really great perspective and collaboration coming out quite strongly. Just going back to a challenge you had mentioned, you had mentioned that education is also one of the biggest challenges, and it's interconnected to all the different challenges. And Sarah, you've also spoken passionately about education being one of the key things that you're working on and people need to focus on. And I want to ask you, what have you done to influence change in your community, and what are your recommendations to support us and all young people, to empower us through education and work. This is an area you're really passionate about. We'd be keen to hear what are some of the solutions you've come up with, particularly to this challenge.
Oh yeah, thanks, Moni, for a great question. One of things that I have done of launch initiative called Youth for Peace. The main objective are to expand the scope of education and international opportunity for young people, to provide advice and help on their application so they can access educational and work opportunities. We also help young people to access distance education and e-learning education opportunity, because they're young people who work and cannot access to face-to-face education and help to disability youth. We publish opportunities of e-learning platforms, for example, Coursera, Udemy, edX, and other platforms to help people to apply. I always recommended using the energy of youth to create a new idea and new innovation in order to improve their reality, condition, lives, and the lives of others and in their communities. Young people can be an important and influential part in achieving change by involving them in opportunity and discussion in order to share their experience and recommendation and idea. Thanks.
Thank you once again, Sarah, and you're really bringing us into a perspective of energy of young people can be utilized to create new ideas. And just reflecting on a point that you had mentioned as you were speaking about the challenges, you said that I am one of them. And you want to engage, you want to participate. And this really brings Arwin then into the next section on with the work that you have done, Arwin, what have young people done to protect children in the disaster situations? And then what have you done in disaster risk reduction in your own community? We'd also be keen to hear, what are you doing in your community, Arwin?
Okay, thank you, Fanny. In my experience as young humanitarian worker in the disaster emergency, can be divided into 3 categories, namely pre-disaster, during disaster, and post-disaster. The first is pre-disaster. Young people roles in pre-disaster is very important. For example, I with my friend in Mitra Muda engage in pre-disaster through social media education to raise public awareness, especially for children and young people, about disaster management and also climate change. We also able to utilize UNICEF Indonesia and U-Report account to publish on social media, conducting live Instagram and webinars about disaster and climate change. And also young people able carry out the disaster risk reduction program as I did in my community. I also conducted disaster risk reduction program with my friends in SBSM Protracted Bandung that called 1001 Sekolah Siaga Gempa. Is about school-based earthquake preparedness. This program prepares children to have knowledge and capacity in reduction disaster risk and also prepare for the disaster. So far, this program has reached 900 children, 86 teachers, and also resulting to preparedness community in their school and 1 village in Bandung, West Java. And also lesson learned from this program is children and young people have potential to be involved in planning, implementation, and also evaluation for disaster risk reduction program. And the second, the role of young people during disaster. Young humanitarian worker can provide emotional support at the critical time. I have experience when I got deployed in East Nusa Tenggara last April. I also conducted a mental health and psychosocial support that targeting children, young people, and also children with disability. And also I collaborated with local youth and local organization with disability there. So the outcome will we will together implementing the mental health and psychosocial support together. I have a story from East Nusa Tenggara. One of the local youth there said to me, we really need this capacity building activity because we don't want to just stay in shelter. We want to help our friend we want to rise again. So we are able to restore the spirit of the Nusa Tenggara. And then the third, the role young people in post-disaster. In my organization at my university, we initiative crowdfunding activities to help people who are impacted by disaster, such as through online campaign and carry out the process of raising fund for disaster affected in resilient building. I think that's my experience in emergency situation for me. Thank you.
Great. I'm just so happy listening to all of you sharing what you're doing, because I think it's very powerful to see the resilience, the commitment, and the consistency that you all are doing to ensure your community is still, you're still providing some sort of continuous engagement for the community. And I think just to kind of like highlight some of the things that came up, I think we had from Shahid sharing about collaboration coming up as something that is very important. As Shahid was speaking, he didn't say that I did, he kept on insisting that we did. So meaning that it has taken collaboration with other people in the community to be able to really support and focus on ensuring that legal justice is accessible for the young women and girls in the community. Then we come to Sarah, who've also shared the role that she is playing as really ensuring that the community is aware of the different opportunities available and supporting them through that. And then coming to you, Irene, hearing that the school-based earthquake preparedness program and the impact that it has had, 933 children have benefited from this, and then 86 teachers are also aware of this, really also goes to say the important aspect of ensuring that we're working in the community, but also working and collaborating with others. It also shows the importance of coordinating as young people, and what you mentioned, that one of the young people saying that we really need this capacity building activity because we don't want to just stay in the shelter. We also want to help fellow impacted young people rise together and restore the spirit of the children. And I think this is a message that all across the globe, many young people are sharing in this, and you have also really brought out that clearly. And I think just to also kind of reflect on my experience, and one of the things that, one of the challenges I encountered and the solution that we ended up doing to kind of like mitigate that is that when it comes to this space of working with young people, then information is really important. And what with lack of information, sometimes information can reach people in the remote, can reach people in the urban areas or in the camp setting, but then in the remote areas, it becomes very hard for them to have access to this. And so one of the things that has been quite keen is to provide timely information that can be accessed through different channels. This is through WhatsApp, through Facebook, and this is something that we're also trying to incorporate into the procedures, into the systems that we are working on, and to ensure that it's also youth friendly. We have quite a lot of jargon, right? You'll read a document and there's such a big word and you're wondering, what does this mean? So also kind of like reducing the jargons to ensure that the young people are able to relate to it, they're able to understand what their role in that. And thank you to the three panels for also sharing what they've been doing to ensure that the different people in the communities are working on this. I encourage all of us to share your questions in the question and answer section. We'll be happy to respond to all the questions you'll have. But before we get to the question, I'd like to take this opportunity as well to invite Priya. We've heard about what the young people are doing, and we've talked about the IASC guidelines. And I want to invite Priya to also respond to this question. What are you doing, and how does the guidelines relate and support the work that our young panelists and advocates are doing? Priya, welcome.
Thank you, Phony, and thank you, Shahid, Sarah, and Erwin. What an incredible session this is. I'm truly inspired and in awe of all the dynamic interventions, examples you've given, and also just your personal journeys, your lived experience of how you've come this far. You've, found ways, you've figured out solutions, and you've really tried to make a difference for yourselves, for your communities. it's really, really such an amazing inspiration for all of us to listen directly to you. And really, we couldn't have planned this in a better way than just to have us listen to the young people and listen to your voices. So thank you for sharing so humbly and so honestly. I think many of us listening to you are really really awestruck with all of your experiences and all of the action that you're taking. Um, I think some of the things you've also taught us, and which is what I'm going to come to next, is also not just to look at the vulnerabilities and the challenges and the concerns and issues, but also to find solutions and also to channel that energy of the young people. Many of the young people, as you've spoken, including yourselves, have been displaced, are refugees, are living in different countries, but you're still trying to figure out how to be involved, how to get engaged, how to get access to different services, to education, to protect others. And I think that's really important. And that's exactly what the IASC youth guidelines have been trying to tell us, is to focus on trying to bring young people at the table, consider them as partners, let aside our power as stakeholders and really bring and involve young people in humanitarian programs, in our responses, as well as really make sure that the engagement is safe, it's meaningful, it's ethical. Um, I just want to share some tools and resources that will help us carry this conversation forward. And those of us listening to us today, those of you listening to us today, will probably find a lot of these tools useful because Phony, Shahid, Erwin, and Sarah have also been using this in their advocacy efforts, in their actions, in their communities. Next slide, please. So on the left, you'll see with us and for us, the IASC youth guidelines. Phony spoke about it. These were launched in February of this year, so a while ago. And since then, we've had a number of global and regional and country level events and trainings. I'll speak a little bit more about that. The link will be for you in the chat. Please take a look at this. Almost 500 young people, many of them with us here today, have contributed directly to development of these guidelines across 20 countries. So many youth voices have gone directly into them. You'll find excellent country examples of how to engage young people in education or child protection or livelihoods or health or other big responses, and also the key principles, making your case when we're trying to work with donors or member states or humanitarian stakeholders. So really take a look and please use these guidelines. We have continuous trainings happening all year round, including into next year. These are very much connected with UNICEF's revised core commitments to humanitarian action, for children in humanitarian action. They're very much connected to the Netherlands Youth at Heart principles and all the other big guidelines and standards we have for young people. So do take a look at this. It really is a handy tool. And to make it digestible for everybody, we've created or developed the IASC Youth Guidelines training package, which is again on your right, and we'll provide you the link where you can download materials. Currently, we have it in English and Arabic, and we're hoping to soon translate it in French and Spanish and other languages too. This will give you your presentations, your templates that you need to present to your senior management or your community members, and also the presentations that go along with working group exercises for in-person and or virtual trainings. So again, the guidelines have been translated into or developed into the facilitator's guide and the training pack to be able to allow for rollout and training efforts on the ground, and to bring in the voices of, like we heard from Phony, Sarah, Erwin, and Shahid today. Next slide, please. This, as you can see, is some of the many past and recent and future rollout events we have, including upcoming in-country trainings that we'll be holding in a hybrid fashion in virtual and in-person settings, and as well as many other global events we're going to be part of, or we're going to have side sessions and events and high-level segments on similar issues and discussions, and we're going to bring in the voices of young people into some of these. if you are interested in taking part in any of these sessions, we will be moving around with a call to applications for enrolling in training efforts in 2022. So you can keep a lookout in your emails for more information to come. Next slide, please. And I think that's my last slide to basically point you to the link where you will find the guidelines, you will find the training pack. Just about 2 weeks ago, we conducted our first training for young humanitarians, only young people, received a 6-hour session, I would say, from us, some of us, on how to and how and when and where, how to work with young people in humanitarian and protracted crises. Phony and some others participated in that training. I hope you took away from it. And it was a really lively, excellent session with Youth Compact champions, with the Global Refugee Youth Network, and many other young humanitarians who joined us. And we'll be doing several of these into 2022 to really make sure that the guidelines are also youth responsive, but they're also friendly and they're also digestible in the materials and language that we can speak to with and for young people. So again, keep a lookout in your emails for those young people who want to attend and sign up for these, and for the various stakeholders we have, be it UNICEF or Youth Compact champions or other agencies and organizations who've joined us. If you're interested in participating in any of our global or regional or in-country rollout efforts, again, we will make sure that we reach out to the AY-Engage community and through all of you who've signed up for this webinar to let you know of those training efforts coming, so you can sign up as well. And with that, I will end my slides and pass it back to Phony. Thank you.
Thank you, Priya, very much for sharing that. Really informative, always learning. It's a good session to keep on learning and work with everyone. And with that, we're coming to a very exciting session where we will get to respond to some of the questions. So I urge you, if you have questions, please use the Q&A. And the first question, I'm going to direct this to Shahid. The question reads, it is so great to hear about your experience addressing these challenges. What can non-youth, what can non-youth humanitarian actors do? How can we partner with you to support your work and other people and the work of other young people as well? What can they do?
Yeah, I think this is a very great question. So in order for young people to be very effective in their activism and be like more resilient and have like more influence on the community and on their work, definitely they need like support from other humanitarian actors, on the ground humanitarian actors, whether they are like UN agencies, other non-governmental agencies, and even like if they are governmental agencies, because without their support, the young people work can be just like can be very restricted and cannot be that much effective. That was I was faced with like when I started my activism. So the first thing was for me like the lack of budget, like when we wanted to implement like certain programs in the community. So definitely for some programs we needed budget, and that was when like we approached to some humanitarian actors and just like we asked their support to support us like financially and just like provide us budget, different like fundraising campaigns and just like some proposals. So yeah, humanitarian actors can play like a very important role in youth activism, especially like UN organizations that are like everywhere on the ground in the world, and other humanitarian organizations, non-governmental organizations. So they can support young people activism on the ground, and that's like where the young people can be very effective in their activism. And also from the other side, collaboration between young people, like there are different, like what I observe in my community, in my country, like there are different young people with different perceptions and like with different talents, and so like one thing that the humanitarian actors can do to bring those young people into one platform and provide them resources and opportunities to get connected with each other and work collaboratively for addressing a certain most critical challenges and issues in the community. So that's like where the young people will be more active, more fruitful in their activism and in their humanitarian work. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Shahid, on responding to that. And maybe just to add my 2 cents into it, I think one of the things that non-youth humanitarian actors can also do, and what I have found really helpful in the last almost 8 years of the work I've been doing, is kind of like transfer of skills in a very meaningful way, whereby it's not about telling the young people to do this, but really just working with them and telling them, this is how it would normally be done, and then giving them that space to also kind of like discover new ways, to discover how to do it. And this is something that I've found really helpful in the work that I'm doing, being able to see that this is how it would be done normally, but if you have any other space to come up with something out of the world, creative thing, that I can also have that space to think creatively and include that. And then the other aspect that I think non-youth can also do in the different works you're doing, for example, with the Global Refugee Youth Network, one of the things that we as Shahid has spoken, he said collaboration and partnership is really important. And Women Refugee Commission is incubating the Global Refugee Youth Network. So you're giving them that space to really learn on how do you manage a project? How do you interact with donors? How do you, that space, giving them that space to really develop a system where they can lead these activities on their own, and guiding them to really give them that space to be creative as they want to be creative. I think those are some of the things that I can share. And maybe I will bring Sarah and Arvin to this conversation. You can respond to the second question that, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead,
sorry for interrupting. Just like, yeah, I totally agree with your points. Just like I missed the second part of the question, like what non-humanitarian can do. Yeah. So the non-humanitarian like organizations and actors can also play like a very important part in supporting young people in humanitarian action. So I just like you mentioned, like providing like employability skills opportunities and just like modern education, you know, and like education about technology and stuff like that. It's like very important because the non-humanitarian actors have like lots of resources in some cases for young people, so where like they can also contribute to their success as well, because they need like human force and young people like from in humanitarian situation, like they are with great passion and just like in great need for the job, so they can contribute to their success as well. So they can implement programs and support young people to teach them employability skills and make familiar them with other modern issues and modern education issues. And also from the other side, like other healthcare officials and healthcare people that are involved in the healthcare system and are not humanitarian actors, so they can support young people by providing programs such as like a mental health awareness program that we have already mentioned. And it's like a very critical issue when like when a person, like a young person, has like fully mental awareness and is like fully mentally prepared, so they can contribute a lot to their community and just like they can contribute a lot to their work and their activism as well.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask another question, and maybe Sarah or Arvin, if you want to chime in onto what we've responded to with Shahid, you can also do it before you get to the second question. And this question is, we've highlighted how we've gone through stressful and a very challenging situation, all of us. And this question is directed to all of us, but we'll start with Arvin and then get to Sarah and possibly to Shahid if we have more time. How did you manage to deal with the stress and the mental health? Because this is important. What kind of support were helpful, or what kinds of support do we think is needed as young humanitarians? Arvin, do you want to start your response to that question?
Okay, Tony. My ways to manage stress when I got deployed in emergency response and how to increase our resilience. For example, I also take a break twice a week session, and also I conducting a PFA with my friends, with my team, so we can talk about what's the problem, what challenge we can share together we will also give a feedback from me and from my team, so the conflict in team will manage well, and also we're able to stress release with feedback response mechanism. And also we have breathing exercise in the weekend, or in maybe in the edge of the mountain if there is a mountain, and also in beach. Yeah, maybe that's my tips how I manage my stress, or to increase my resilience in emergency situation. Thank you, Foni.
Great, thank you. I wish we had more time and then you could show us the breathing exercise. That would have been really good. But thank you for also highlighting that. Sarah, do you have any other further response you'd like to include to that question?
Yeah, Foni. Thanks for this question. Maybe for me, and the stress or any pressure time, maybe I take a break and go with friends, a nature trip, or go to shopping, or most thing I do yoga training or play sports. Yeah, maybe this.
Thank you again. I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to reflect quickly on that and also share one of the things that has also really been helpful when it comes to the mental health and the support is one of the having a drive that has all these resources, first of all, resources on where services are available. I think I had totally forgotten about all that. And once I was going through that particular point, I remember to go through that resource. And then the other thing was within the different centers, there were options available for counselors who actually dedicated to young people. So that was also really available for me, and I was able to reach out to them and work with them. And then the other thing is, even if we're thinking about this sort of support and incorporating mental health counselors and all that, they also have to be quite flexible and available in different languages. So that is one of the key things that really helped. I'm going to ask another question, one more question, which Shahid, Arvin, and then Sarah can respond to before we move on to the next point is, we've talked about the works we're doing, how we're working with the community, and one of the audience is asking, how did you get elders or parents involved, or the communities involved in the different processes that you are leading? If you could respond in 1 minute, that would really be appreciated. Shahid, do you want to start by responding to that question?
In order to get the elder people, and most of the time, let's say like influential people in a community, so in order to get their support, and as well as like parent support, so it's like also critically important for a successful work and a successful activism. So in most of the time, like the problem is like most of the time those people, influential people, and let's say like elder people, and just sometimes parents, they do not have interest in the issue that the young people really care about. And I found it like myself, and observed in my community, like when I was working for the changing perspectives about women and girls. So like many people, especially like the people that were like previous my generation, and they were like they did not accept my idea, and they told me, okay, like you don't have, it's like not a good idea, and just like our community and our culture has everything given for women and girls, and it's not just like we do not support your idea. So that was a really difficult problem that I found. And how to get their support, it's like it depends on the work, that what type of work you are doing, and you have to find. So like what I did, I found that, okay, so like we are living in a modern world right now, and just like what you did, that was in the past, and just like giving them realistic examples, and involving them in the like a lively scenario that really can help them. So just like I can remember, like most of the people were against of my activism, and when something like happened in their community, like let's say like a problem was happening in one of the household, that was like rejecting my activism. So just like when the problem happened to them, so then they realized that what is wrong with that. So I was the first person with my group, and with my like-minded fellows who were like beside them, and we just like, they didn't know where to go and get support from. So then like we went, like we made them familiarize, and we put them in contact with different like individuals and entities who were really helpful, and giving them the support and giving them their rights. So that's like when you involve them in lively scenarios and just like prove them the validity of your activism, so that way you can get the support from. But yeah, like in some cases it's really easy to get for people support, like if you are working for education, or just like you were working in your community for social, like for peace or for harmony or for other like for improving young people life, children life. So that's easy to get like elder people support. But if you are working on a preservative and conservative community against like some cultural barriers, like as I mentioned, like in Afghanistan, it's really hard for a person, especially like for a man, to speak about women and girls' rights. So then you have to be like more sharp, let's say, and then you have to have like more reasons for that to convince them and get their support.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn to Sarah and Arvin. If you could both keep your response to a minute or even less, that would really be good. We don't want to keep everyone here for a long time, but happy to at the same time. We have a good audience. Sarah, how have you involved the elders in your community?
Thank you, Fanny, for this question. Involve the parents or older people as very important, because they are mentors, and mentors have sufficient experience resolving issue. And you can solve any problem facing the youth and other people in the community.
Thank you so much for responding to that. Arvin, how have you involved the parents or elders in the different processes that you're leading?
Okay, funny. Based on my experience, the first, how to involve the parents or the elders to help children and people. Firstly, I will coordinating with children, and also raising awareness about what is the important. For example, when I conducting disaster risk reduction program, when I coordinating with school, there's a lot of teacher for what this program, this not important, because they're not yet about earthquake in Bandung City, they said to me. And also my way to how to involve them. The first, I will raise awareness about in Bandung has a Lembang fault that can be get earthquake if Lembang fault is moved, and then about presentation in front of them, and also collaborating with them to supervise their pupils or children in their school. I think that's my way to involve parents or teacher when conducting DRR in school program. That's it, Fun.
Thank you so much, everyone. You have shared great perspectives, what you're doing, how we've responded to most of the question. In case we didn't, we will definitely find a way of responding to them. But I think one of the key things you all have highlighted is that it is important to start having conversation with the elders, with the parents. Then with that, it will translate to the work we're doing. For me, what I've been able to do is, my mom is part of the community, so engaging with her, working with her has been a good process for me. And then slowly working with other community representatives has really helped me in ensuring that I have diverse representation. And this brings us, before we even wrap this webinar up, I'd like to hear one key message. We've talked about what we're doing. We've talked about, highlighted the challenges and solutions that we're leading. What would you like the audience to take away today? Maybe we can start with you, Shahid.
Thank you so much, Fani. The message that I would like to give like to the audience and the young people is young people have a lot to contribute to their communities and their world for a better change. And investing in young people and including them in the decision making and about their world can shape the future of the globe for better. And my message to young people particularly is that young people have lots of energy, and they are the ones that the community can rely on and the community can count on. So there are lots of issues and happening like everywhere in the world, and there are lots of problems and challenges that need to be addressed. So my message for young people is that pick up an issue that you think affects your community, and just like you think it's like a very challenging issues in our community. So pick up that issue and act now to create a positive change. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that act now. Sarah, what is your key message today?
Yeah, funny. My messages for all youth. I want all youth in the world to complete your dream and hopes, and I want more chance to change young people's lives in the best condition, especially in poor countries. And in addition of that, I hope for all refugees in the world will be successful and influential in the society. And for all youth to continue work hard to reach your dream or hopes. Thanks.
Great. Work hard for young people as well as the other humanitarian actors. Thank you so much. Arwin, what is your key message for today?
Okay, maybe my key message is children and youth have incredible resource of energy and may bring fresh new idea to table that adult haven't considered before. By including us, young people in local disaster preparedness, planning and recovery effort, we can help to share message about disaster preparedness and also continue to serve the community and impact change until we reach adulthood. And then maybe in the end, I want to say youth voice matter. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you very much for your great key messages. I think today we've had quite a lot of perspectives from what challenges you're facing, at the same time had the resilience that you all have and the solutions you're leading in when it comes to natural disasters, when it comes to education, when it comes to peace building, when it comes to the inclusion of women and girls and the different diverse community we have. And one thing that has also come out from this particular webinar is that we do have a tool. We have the Iasc Youth Guidelines that kind of like show us how to do this. And I think for me, one of the takeaways that I've taken from this, I had comments such as, I've lost job opportunities because I'm a refugee. I was rejected simply because I was a Syrian. I left my country and became a refugee. I have had to learn how to balance humanitarian work and my normal work, my day job. And then I've also had that I will carry out more targets. I will carry out more trainings to target different schools to reach more youth. I will continue working with the different people in my community. I will continue supporting my community to ensure that that they're able to really access education and access their rights. And this resilience has come out so strongly. My key message to all the audience today is that take a look at the guidelines and really focus and think about how are some of your programmings inclusive? What are the gaps? Are you including young people? So my challenge to all of you is to go back and reflect. Are you including young people? We've talked about amplifying, acting now, and building their capacity. Really, really important. So thank you for being a great audience. I look forward to hearing from all of you one of these days and reporting back. This is how we're including young people. Thank you for being a great audience, and we look forward to having more of these sessions. To our panelists, thank you for sharing your experience and your expertise. To the organizing team as well, thank you very much. It's been a great session. So apologies, we've gone over by 5 minutes, but thank you for still holding on and staying on to the end of the session. Once again from us, have a good rest of your day or evening, and we shall see you soon on social medias, or even the report back you will be sharing with us on how you're actually implementing the guidelines. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.